What I have here is an inexpensive and relatively lightweight travel rod and reel setup that will be effective for backcountry backpacking, fishing, or if you just need something to throw in your car or something that's lightweight, this is a very effective tool. The reel itself is a Pissy Fun Carbon X 1000. This reel is very affordable. You can find it right around the $50 mark. It's fairly lightweight. I have the size 1000 here. It comes in at 5.7 ounces. They do make them all the way from a size 500 up to a size 4000, with the size 500 only weighing 5.1 ounces. The build of this reel is actually pretty dang good for a $50-ish reel. It has a combination of different metals, carbon fiber, and plastics. It has a gear ratio of 5.2 to 1, so every one turn of the handle means that this spins 5.2 times. So it's a pretty average retrieval speed there. Inside it are several sets of ball bearings, which is nice. On the website it does say they are shielded. It doesn't say they're sealed, but either way it should last a long time with shielded or sealed bearings inside of there. The handle of this reel does have a nice smooth turn to it. It has a kind of harder foam handle here that is comfy in the hand, and then the handle will also switch over to be right-sided if you're a total maniac like that. The spool of the reel here underneath the line does have a textured kind of grippy surface to hold your line on when you're spooling your line onto here. On the reel itself, it states that it will hold 110 yards of 10-pound braid or 100 yards of 6-pound mono. Maybe one of my only real complaints about this reel. I wish it did hold a little more line, maybe a slightly deeper spool. But the way it is now, I think that's enough line to get you by for quite a while, and it does cast fairly nicely out of that spool. The bail itself has a nice crisp click over. The drag knob here is easy to access like most drag knobs are. It turns nicely with a nice smooth turn as well as a nice tactile and audible click to it. It only moves in one direction, and that's the direction that you're reeling. Some reels will have a reverse knob right here. This one does not have a reverse knob. I've actually never needed one or wanted one on one of my fishing reels. Of course, on the reel, I have my preferred fishing line for backpacking and backcountry trout fishing, and that is a moss green braided line. That is anywhere from 6 to 10 pounds. So my overall impressions of this reel are pretty dang positive. You can find this thing on sale for right around that $50 mark, and for right around that $50 mark, I think this is an excellent reel to take just on your day-to-day fishing trips, or you can grab it and throw it in your backpack for those backcountry backpacking trout fishing adventures. As always, there are links in the description box down below if you want to go check either of these products out. And I've been really getting into multi-piece travel rods this summer. So if you guys are using a multi-piece travel rod that you think is really quality or real, let me know in the comments so I can go and check it out, and maybe I'll pick one up, try it out, and then do a review on it. Subscriber actually did recommend this reel right here, and I went and picked one up on that recommendation, and so far so good. Let's talk about the rod itself. So the rod itself is the Cast King Valiant Eagle Passage 4-piece spinning rod. Man, it's a mouthful. This is a travel rod, which means it breaks down into 4 pieces here. This rod here comes in lengths all the way from 5'6" all the way to 8'6", so quite a wide range of lengths. The one I have right here is a 6'6", and it comes in at just 4.7 ounces. The 6'6" version that I have here has, ow, flies biting me. God dang it. The 6'6" version that I have here has a moderate fast action. My preference in the backcountry is to have a moderate fast to fast action. It gives me the most versatility as far as throwing spinners, spoons, and twitch and jigs. If you wanted a smaller version than this 6'6" one, like I said, they do make all the way down to 5'6", which would be lighter and easier to pack around for your backcountry trout fishing. That length is a moderate action, which I think is still acceptable. I prefer fast, but I think moderate action is just fine. The 6'6" version here is a medium power rod, which I don't think is entirely necessary for backcountry trout. Usually, you're catching trout in the backcountry 10, 14 inches long, and an ultralight or light power rod would be just fine. So this is slightly overkill. However, occasionally you will hit a lake that has some just absolute footballs in it or some lunkers, and it is nice to have a lightweight packable rod in your arsenal that you can take to handle some of those bigger high lake fish. The recommended line weight is 8 to 12 pounds, and the recommended lure weight is 1/4 to 5/8. In all of my 40 years of fishing, I have never once listened to either of those recommendations. I just thought I'd throw it in there in case you guys were real sticklers about sticking to the rules. The actual rod itself is graphite, which gives it a pretty decent weight to stiffness ratio, and the eyes are titanium dioxide, nice and smooth. The pole casts just fine, haven't had any issues with it there. It has a cork handle, which is my preference, and then the reel seat here is all plastic, but for a lightweight pole like that and with today's polymers, shouldn't really ever be an issue. Similar to the reel I just showed you guys, this pole is right around $50. I think the fit and finish and build quality of this pole is just about what I'd expect, or maybe even good for that price point. There are some little gaps in the cork here and whatnot, but nothing that will actually affect you fishing. This is a pretty dang decent pole for right around 50 bucks. I do have a gripe about this pole though, and that is the sensitivity. I can't be 100% sure about the construction or how they seated the pole to the handle here, but it is going to be my guess that the actual fishing pole is anchored in or glued in to the handle to probably right about here. When I flex it, I can see it and kind of feel it flex right about right there, which makes me think the actual pole stops right around right here. My preference would be if the pole ran the length of the entire handle, so when you're holding the fishing pole and fishing, anything that happens out here on the tip comes down and you can feel it in your hand. Some of my really expensive poles, I can feel every little twitch and bite, whereas this one, while it works totally fine and there's nothing wrong with it, I just don't quite get the sensitivity that I'm used to with my more expensive poles. But this is a fantastic pole for right around that $50 mark. That would really be my only gripe, and that's really even just more like a preference of mine. And one more little thing I'll show you guys about this pole itself. It does have a little hook keeper right there. You can attach your lure, spinner, whatever to here and keep your line tight and your lure and hook out of the way as you're walking around the lake or down the riverbank or whatever. It really bugs me when fishing pole companies don't put that, or sometimes you just have to like hook it into the cork or something. So for just over $100 you could get yourself into a pretty decent travel rod, great lightweight reel, as well as some fishing line. I think this setup is going to have a permanent place in the rotation of poles and reels that go in and out of my backpack, especially if I'm heading to a high lake that I know has some bigger trout in it. This would be a really great setup. If you're curious or just researching ultralight or backcountry fishing setups, I'll put some links down in the description box. I have several videos about the best ultralight fishing setup, fishing tackle, and best lightweight fishing tools, as well as my favorite spinners and spoons. That's gonna do it for this one, you guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you get out there and slay some trout. We'll catch you on the next one.